Look what my man is doing. Painting. Oh, I find it so attractive and so sexy if a man is actually doing masculine things. I, as a woman, find this super attractive, and I think we need to reclaim it.
Folks, we're about to dive headfirst into the crazy world of human connections. Let's go.
This is the Boulder Zone, the fusion of masculine insight and entertainment.
This is Sparta!
Here's your host, Marco Boulder.
Welcome back to the Zone. My guest today knows a thing or two about creating powerful and connected relationships. She is relationship coach Veronika Amaya. Watch this.
In popular culture, at the moment, we have this tendency to blame men for everything and to make it okay to do so, which obviously comes from feminism, where men are regarded as the oppressors and the winners of society. So it is okay to put all the blame on them because they have such a great life in our society anyways. And this, first of all, is simply not true, because men are not winners. Men actually are suffering a lot. You can see this in the mental health crisis with the raging numbers of men suffering from depression, committing suicide, being alcoholics, and so on. There are so many problems there. So men are not winners of the system. And of course, they also have totally lost their role in the last 50 years. But apart from that, let's say even if men should be winners in this system, it is still absolutely toxic to blame your man in your relationship. And the reason for this is imagine you are together with someone and they would constantly say, oh, it's because you're a woman. You're just not good enough. Like, you're just doing things wrong. It's just because you're a woman. Oh, how would it make you feel? You would start resenting the other person. And of course, that's exactly what happening. Men are resenting women that treat them like this. And some men, unfortunately, have even internalized this blame. So they like rejecting their own masculinity. They're making the men and masculinity responsible for everything that's bad in the world. And in that case, they have, first of all, unconscious anger. They're still angry if someone treats you like this in a relationship. It does not feel good. So maybe it's unconscious, which of course still has negative consequences. But also, by internalizing the blame, they will also probably have nice guy syndrome, have really bad boundaries, and women will not be very attracted to them. So that's a whole other topic. But yes, this is really one of the most simple tools that I can give you that you can immediately change, and it will really make such a big difference in your relationship. Because imagine you are together with someone who is just like, in general, like blaming and hating your sex. And another really important point is that this attitude of blaming men stops you from taking self-responsibility and grow as a woman. You cannot reflect and really have a realistic view of yourself if you constantly put the blame on someone else instead of seeing how you are contributing to the problem. And this in general is done so often in our society, where we constantly project everything that we are doing wrong to other people, and we just stay immature. We stay in this teenage phase and we can never ever grow into mature adults. And this is not to say that all women are to blame or all men are to blame, but in all relationships, both parties are contributing to a problem. And it's really important, if we want to have good relationships, that we take self-responsibility what we are doing. And that's actually also the only thing that we can change in a relationship.
Veronica is not your typical relationship coach, folks. She is all about exposing how to unleash a genuine connection with your romantic partners, friends, and family. Her approach helps men reclaim their powerful masculinity and guides women into their divine femininity. Hailing from Bavaria, Germany, Veronica now calls the wild landscapes of southern England her home, where she lives with her husband, Matt. She has a YouTube channel packed with her relationship and self-improvement videos that will speak to your spirit and your common sense. Veronica has hosted over 130 live relationship seminars, spearheaded through her Conscious Relationship School on meetup.com. She's also written a free ebook entitled The Secret Guide to Satisfying Relationships. So grab a refreshing beverage, sit back, and prepare to level up your relationship game with the one and only Veronika Amaya. How are you?
Oh, that was a good thank you for this beautiful intro.
Oh, well, you're too kind. Let's dive right in. I understand that you've worked with Teal Swan's program. Let's hear a little bit about that. But first, how about a little background on you? What put you on the path of relationship coaching?
Yeah, so as always, it started for me in childhood because my parents had a really rocky relationship. So I was always had this deep longing to have a husband in my life that I could have a really harmonious relationship with. And then when I found my now husband almost 7 years ago, it was a beautiful connection, but I really struggled to have conflicts that are not so vicious and terrible, basically. And so I was like, I really need to learn this because I don't want to spend my life like my parents arguing, because I think they are a great couple, but they just never knew how to connect.
You offer some pretty honest advice on your YouTube channel. In this culture, I imagine some of it is not popular with certain women, right?
Yeah, so for me, what I've realized is that when you look at relationship health, really most of it focuses on what men do wrong. That's what most women, I think, believe. It's the man's fault because they cannot connect, they don't know how to talk about feelings, and so on and so forth. And I realized there's a big shadow within the feminine, because we actually, especially in modern relationships, when it's an equal relationship where both work a lot, there are a lot of things that women do that are actually really terrible for relationships, and they are really not aware of it. And of course, when I do my videos, then sometimes women get triggered because it's very hard, to realize that you actually contribute to the problem that you have, and that you realize, oh my gosh, maybe I don't have so many good relationship skills as I thought.
I particularly enjoyed watching some of your TikTok shorts. So, what do you say we play a few of those and then have you elaborate a bit on them?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Let's start with a real hot button issue. The cultural influence on masculine and feminine roles is the big deal right now. Hear your thoughts on this. Watch this.
What we see right now in couples is often the man is sort of like more feminized and the woman is more masculine. And the problem about this is it's very bad for, sexual passion and relationship, but also it weakens the couple, because a woman's natural state is to be feminine, is to be soft. That's where she feels best. That's really important, for giving birth. And the man feels best if he's in his masculine element, if he's a leader, if he feels strong. And especially right now, when we have all these challenging times, politically and socially, it would be even more important that a couple is in these natural and very healthy dynamics, because this is how you can function best. And I really believe that people have all this stuff like mixed up, because it breaks couples apart. I mean, that's the reason, basically one of the reasons why we have such high divorce rates.
Veronica, what brought you to that perspective?
Yeah, so it was actually my own story, because as I shared before, my husband and I met 7 years ago, and for the first 3 years of our life, we had a relationship that was almost the other way around, that I was more masculine and my husband was more feminine. And then he also suffered from something that is called the nice guy syndrome, which is where men are quite pleasing and quite feminine and reject their own masculinity. And I used to be a really controlling woman. And what happened in our relationship was that, first of all, yes, our intimacy suffered because we were resenting each other a lot. But also we had a lot of conflicts, and we were not flowing as a couple. There was no harmony. And yeah, we almost broke up about this, and it really deeply shook me. And I was like, I cannot keep living like this. And yeah, so I embarked on a journey to change it. I did a lot with tantric femininity, where I learned, how to connect to my core feminine essence. And my husband did the same. He learned how to be really in his raw masculinity. He did a lot of trainings where they went out naked, fighting, And yeah, it has brought so much to our relationship. And that's why I love to share about this, because many people don't know, and they're really stuck in these patterns where men basically feel absolutely emasculated. I always say energetically castrated, and women feel so stressed. They feel that all the burdens of life are on their shoulders, because basically in this dynamic, the husband becomes almost like a child. And yeah, it's really, really exhausting for the woman.
I see. You also have a solid opinion about what is most important for a man in a relationship. Let's go ahead and take a look at that.
What men need in relationships and almost never get. The answer is very simple: respect. Men want to be respected and honored by you. How do you do that? First off, start by not interrupting a man when he's speaking. Let him finish his thought. Men sometimes need a little bit longer, but then you really find jewels in what they are saying. Second, don't embarrass him in front of your friends or people in general. Men hate that. If you have a problem, if you have a fight, do it at home, but do not air the dirty laundry and embarrass him in front of people. Third, ask him for his opinion. Let him know that his advice really matters to you. If you are really in a serious relationship and you love your partner, of course you would want their advice. One of the worst things that feminism has done to women and men is to tell men that they are not important to us. Of course they are important. They are beautiful people and they have so much to give to you.
You nailed that. In your experience, why is this difficult for many women to grasp?
For some reason, they immediately think that when I say respect men, it means that women don't need respect. I don't know why. It's very strange. They immediately jump to this conclusion, and they immediately feel, for some reason, that if they focus on respect, it means that we go back to the 1950s or 1900s, where women didn't have rights. But what I then try to do is to talk a bit on a deeper level with them and really make them understand how a man feels when he is constantly disrespected. And the thing is that at some point women understand that by disrespecting their man, they are shooting the relationship down. They're basically killing the relationship, and they are hurting themselves. And then I also always tell them that for a woman, she doesn't just need respect, she needs deep love and cherishing. And that's usually then when they understand that, yes, for a man, of course he wants to be loved, but for him, being respected, all the things that I said in this video, is far more important. But for women, if she just gets respected, she dries out like a flower, because she needs this little extra water to tell her how beautiful she is and how much the man loves her. And when I talk about this, then usually women understand what I mean a bit better.
Let's talk now about the current social dogma that is really, I think, doing damage to traditional relationships. Here are your thoughts on toxic femininity.
So what I've started to realize the last month is that toxic feminism has been promoted and created so that fathers are essentially pushed out of the family, which weakens the whole society. And this is really wanted, because it just makes people weak. Because if you are not together as a couple, raising your children will be hard, and you will be much poorer. Your mental and emotional health will be much lower, which means you're much easier to manipulate, and also you're much less independent. So if you are a woman that has, all these angry feelings towards men, it comes from trauma around your dad, and this narrative is pushed on you that men are somehow responsible for your problems.
Men are labeled today as toxic if we have a more traditional relationship preference. So, why don't we hear much about people condemning women as toxic if they have the same traditional relationship beliefs?
Yeah, it is such an incredible problem, really. Even if I hear the word toxic masculinity, like it makes me sick because people, as I said in this video, they do not realize how important it is that men are strong warriors and that this is really the foundation for a free and healthy society. And um, and I really see what I think has happened is that the feminine hurt, the deep hurt, right, of being disempowered for so many thousands of years. And of course, men have the same hurt towards women in other ways. But let's talk about the female hurt. It has been weaponized essentially to create this divide between the genders. And the reason why I know this is because I used to be such a woman. I used to be really deeply into feminism because I was very hurt by my dad who couldn't emotionally connect with me. And it was just, I was eating it up. All these messages around men are the problem, men are the reason our world is so violent, men are the reason that families break up, and it was really serving my trauma, you know. And so I think in the media all the time we hear this, that women are the good people, the victims, and men are the bad people and the perpetrators. So you will see all the time messaging that is very positive towards women and really always puts them in this victim status, and men a lot of negative messaging. And yeah, I find it so toxic.
Yeah, that makes sense with the feelings that people have about women being more the victim nowadays. I can see how they wouldn't be called in the carpet, as it were, for having more traditional values that if we have would be called toxic. As you know, women are all over social media cackling about how I don't need no man. It's tiring seeing how many do this. When we all know that if a man is stupid enough to be with a female like that, I think they'd probably be all over having a man like that. Let's watch your opinion on this.
Women, stop saying I don't need men. It's a poisonous attitude. There is this belief in our society that somehow it's a good thing for women to not need a man. But do you know what you are doing when you're saying this? For men, it is one of the most important needs to be valuable and useful for the people he loves, and especially for the woman in his life. If he feels that you don't need him, he will feel that he doesn't bring anything to the relationship. It will make his self-esteem go down, and he will just become passive and really, really sad. So if you want to do something really good for your relationship, always give your man this feeling that, yeah, he's so important to you and that he brings a lot to your life, and let him help you with things.
That's awesome. That is spot on. So, what do you really think is behind all of this I don't need no man talk?
Yeah, again, it's the trauma talking, and that again gets just like the whole culture basically perpetuates this. So I think a lot of women have been deeply disappointed by the masculine because, you know, women really crave for a man to protect them, to hold them, to even energetically put his energy around them. And I always say this to my husband: please put your energy around me to protect me. And so many women grew up with fathers that were very absent, also because of the developments we were just talking about, right? So much conflict within couples. And so they think if I make myself vulnerable for the masculine, then again, I'm going to be disappointed because I have another man that cannot fulfill this need. So, and then culture tells them, oh, you should be an independent woman. You should be superwoman, you know, and you can do everything by yourself. You can just get a sperm donor and then be like a mom alone. And so then they say, oh yeah, that's what I want. That's really good. And in female circles, it's like applauded, you know, when someone says, oh, I don't need no man. I can do everything myself. But again, I think it's such a vicious circle because, first of all, for men, it's one of the most important needs. It's respected, to be respected, and to be needed, to be helpful. Men love to be in service of the family, of the country, of their wife. So you take that away from them, but also you gonna turn yourself into this hyper stressed woman, control freak that has to do everything by herself, cannot accept any help, and it kills the feminine radiance. It kills the goddess inside, because we were not designed to be like this. You know, we were designed to live in community, to have many women around us, to have the men protect us, help us, work for us and with us. And women do not understand that they basically diminish their own light by saying this. That's why it is such an important message for me to share.
You know, I think one of the biggest issues that men face today is the lie that men almost naturally oppress women. And women are suffering terribly from this. I've talked to many men about their problems with women over the years. Not one has ever told me that they approach a woman, whether they're in a relationship or not, with a plan to oppress her. Here's your perspective, and we'll get your comments.
There's this myth in our society that men are somehow suffering less than women because women are very oppressed and men somehow benefit from the system. I think that's absolutely not the case. I think that both genders feel horrible under the system because it just, first of all, teaches us to hate each other. It teaches us that we don't need each other, and it does not teach us how to talk to each other, how to create loving and fulfilling relationships. So men and women suffer differently. Women suffer more under physical violence and also of being left. And I would say in general, like that they are not emotionally enough connected with. But men suffer because they get disrespected, because they get excluded, because they don't have any important role anymore in the household.
That is spot on. So, if a couple is struggling in a relationship with each other, I think they should first stop being influenced by social media and the mainstream media. What would you recommend their steps be after that?
Yeah, first of all, of course, subscribe to my TikTok channel and watch all the videos. No. So the most important thing when you have any issues in the relationship, that both partners think very deeply how they are contributing to the problem. This is always the first thing that needs to happen, because whatever it is, let's say even in a super extreme case that there should be physical violence, there will still be a reason that both of them are in the situation together, even if it means that one partner has really bad boundaries, for example. But let's say in a normal situation where, for example, very typical example, right, that the woman feels that the man likes to spend more time with his golf buddies than with her, there will be a reason why that is. For example, that she continuously nags him, makes him feel that he is less than, tries to boss him around, tries to control. That's like a very typical situation. So both really have to understand, okay, how am I contributing to this problem? And then from there on, you can, for example, look for couples therapy. But very importantly, there can't be a perpetrator. There can't be a person that is responsible, because you have created this dynamic together. So you both have to be so willing and open to see that. And for example, for me, I still do this all the time. I'm a relationship coach, and still many times I apologize to my husband because I'm like, oh, I was really disrespectful. I didn't give you my presents. I was not actually listening to you. I do this all the time because, yeah, it's so ingrained in us to have bad relationships, because most of us were never modeled it. But if you create an attitude, for example, of really apologizing, it's amazing how quickly you can come back from it. Because of course, sometimes you slip, but then you can immediately repair the relationship by doing a lot of apologizing, and also a lot of thanking your partner for all the beautiful things he or her does for you.
You know, I find that sincerity plays a big role in that, because anymore people don't want to fight with each other. You know, the husband or the wife are kind of tired of it and they give you, well, I'm sorry, or, thanks, that sort of thing. I think it's paramount that when you use those words, they're almost a sacred word. They need to come from your heart. They can't be a stopgap. They can't be an excuse to stop making progress on something. How do you feel about that?
100%. I absolutely agree. And I loved how you said that they are sacred words, because if we use our words lightly, our partner can't even hear us anymore. It's the same when you constantly criticize your partner. At some point, it's just going to go out the other ear because they can't hear you anymore. The same for that. And I really found that, especially thank you, especially also towards men, is like a magic word. I can literally see my husband's masculine energy grow. And I say thank you for everything. I say, thank you, honey, for going to work every day. I appreciate it so much. Thank you for cooking me a beautiful meal. Thank you for being so supportive. Just before this podcast, he was like, oh, do you have everything? Oh my gosh, you look amazing. He was so, and I say thank you, because that's also something I see all the time, is that especially women have this feeling that as a husband, or as a boyfriend, there are certain things that are to be expected, and then you can just take it for granted. But it's not taken for granted, because someone getting up every day and like working and bringing home money for you and giving it for you to spend, and the children. I mean, that's incredible, And if we can get over our prides and just appreciate this, and the same will be the other way around. Like, he all the time, thanks me for the things I do, for the beauty I bring to the home, for keeping it clean and tidy, for my work as well. It's just such a beautiful, positive energy that you can bring into a relationship, and with such a little thing as saying thank you.
From your experience in the people that you've worked with, if you had to pick the most common issue between a man and woman in their relationship, a significant problem, what would you say that is? And what would your recommendation be to remedy that?
Yeah, so I want to say here that I really specialize in this modern dynamic of the nice guy, which means the more passive, more like a man, that was brought up to love women and feel almost bad about himself as a man, and a woman that was brought up to be a feminist, to think that she has to take the lead in situations. So that's what I focus on, because of course I totally understand there's also still the classical problems of men being controlling, domineering, maybe even aggressive, but that's not my expertise. Yeah, but I would say in this, when we look at these relationships, the main problem is really the disrespect that women are not even aware of. And especially disrespect that women somehow think that they know what's best for their husbands. And then there is this dynamic created that the woman becomes like very bossy. And you can see this in TV series, for example, all the time, right? It's the mom that is hyper stressed, that controls everyone in the family. That's also the children, actually, where she is like the general, in the home, and everyone has to listen to her. And she usually has sleeping problems. She usually feels constantly tense because she is in this role that's actually very unnatural for her. It's not natural for a woman to be like this, but it's such a role that's been modeled in our family. And then very often what the husbands do is either they become very kind of like soft and weak men that follow the woman and really subordinate themselves, or they stray, right? They are never at home. They maybe even have an affair, or they have some sort of like addictive problem, or they become workaholics. That's kind of like usual how it goes. And very often, of course, these relationships also end up in divorce because it's very painful for both parties involved.
Veronica, I can't agree more. What I found the catalyst in those situations is when a woman is not, she doesn't have that masculine energy from her mate. And so women have this tendency to fulfill that on their own. And by doing that, it soon makes them bitter that their man is not stepping up. and doing the things he's supposed to do. She's got to pound the nail in the fence. She's got to paint the trim. He's too busy. He's kind of withdrawn. I think it's important for men to realize that if they enter into a traditional relationship with a woman, they have responsibilities not just from the beginning, but all through the relationship. You know, as men, we market ourselves to be attractive to a woman. If you're interested in a traditional relationship, that's kind of what you put out there. But it's not fair to her, in my opinion, for once you get into the relationship to relax and come home from work, sit in the lazy boy and watch television when a light bulb needs to be changed or the stove needs to be moved or something like that. Because, like I said, women will step up and do that, but they will get bitter and they will get angry, and they're justified. What's your thoughts on that?
Yes, and they definitely don't want to sleep with you anymore. Yeah, absolutely. This is really, again, how this dynamic plays out so much. And I know it a lot from the female perspective because I know many women that are feeling really like miserable about this, because also for them it's very hard to feel attracted if a man is so, as you said, laid back and doesn't take charge. um, from a woman's perspective, just quickly, you can do something about it, and that is don't do it anymore, literally, because if you make space, the man is going to fill it. And of course, by respecting him and being new feminine softness, he's going to do it. Yeah, but for men, I would say the same thing. And I can understand you because I think that very often you feel not like the boss, like the king in your life. But the thing is, once you start doing these things, like really taking charge in your house, making sure that everything works well, you are also going to get this feeling. So it is the cycle, you know, because I think usually every healthy male would automatically do this. But often for this also, men underestimate that you can actually tell your woman that from now on you want to be in charge. For example, my husband is in charge of our finances completely, and I love it. And so you can tell your woman if you want to take charge of something and be a bit domineering, she'll actually really love it because it makes her feel super relaxed. And yeah, I want to really encourage every man because they often see all these, you know, women that are like, oh, equality and all that stuff. And then they think that most women like that. But when you look, every woman loves the masculine man who takes the woman out and tells her sometimes a bit what to do, you know, sometimes doesn't ask what she wants to eat, just orders her something. It's really sexy. And men, I would love for men to go back to that again.
I was taught that when a woman gets up to go to the powder room, the man stands up. And when she comes back, you sit down. I remember the first time I did that years and years and years ago. The woman looked at me like she was shocked. Like, is there something wrong? Is there something in your chair? What, your pants too tight? What is it? You know? And I had to actually explain to her what I was doing. She didn't even know. And that's the sort of thing I think we need to go back to, not just holding the door and offering the coat and having her stand away from the street side when you're walking, those sort of things, but the whole deal. What do you think about that?
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And I really have to say I'm so sad because I also never have experienced it. I would love for this to experience it that a man stands up when I stand up. Yes, I absolutely agree with you because I totally understand, of course, in the past there has been things that, you know, were not right, the way women were treated, and it's amazing that society develops, but also in the past people understood some things very fundamentally, and that is that the feminine is a soft flower and the man is here to cherish her and protect her. And all those little things that you just mentioned make a woman exactly that, make her feel loved, protected, cherished, like she's something special. And this is actually also the key to intimacy, and real love from a woman, because this is how the flower can open up and can also open her heart. Because I would say this is also one of the biggest issues that women have, is that they are very closed hearted, And that's also not a natural state for women to be in, because we are love on a spiritual level. We are literally pure love as women. And so the things you mentioned make a woman feel that, and feel that she can trust you, and be soft and feminine with you.
So, hardcore feminists, you see what you're missing here? Think about that. I want to thank you, Veronica, for coming on the show today. And I want to leave you with something that I tell most of the men that I talk to and women to kind of capsulize everything. I tell them the same thing. The man is the head of the household, but the woman is the neck, and the neck always turns the head. What do you think about that?
Oh, that is so beautiful. And I want to add to that is that when you have a man, a husband who deeply loves you and wants the best for you from the bottom of your heart, you don't have to be afraid that he is the head of the household, because he will always make decisions that deeply benefit you. So I love that my man is the king in the household, and difficult decisions, he has the last word. And I think that's absolutely amazing, because he's very smart, and I 100% trust him that he will do always the best for me and our family.
That's wonderful. That's so good to hear. And that's what we try to propagate out there when we talk to people with problems. One last thing that came to my head when you said that, I think it's so important that when a woman loves her man so much to let him make that final decision, she trusts him to make the best decision, and he has the best intent in doing that, and it doesn't work out, that she doesn't turn and put one of these numbers and go, I told you so. Because if the intent was pure and it was not the best decision at the time, the man shouldn't be made to feel bad about that, because that will hinder him the next time. And then we all know what happens from there, as far as the woman starting to step in and wanting to make those decisions. So I think it's about trust. It's something that men should honor. He's going to take that into deep consideration, but he is going to make the best decision for the family. And if the intent is good, I believe it's usually the right one. But on those occasions that it's not, it's very, very important for the partner, the woman, to say, hey, we'll get him next time. What's your thoughts on that?
Yes, 100%. I love that you said this, because this has actually been one of my deepest learning, and I call it, it's actually a secret power for you as a woman. When you know how to nurture the confidence of your husband, it's one of the best things you can do for your life and for your relationships, because exactly as you said, the more you trust in him, and sometimes he'll make a mistake. It's the most normal thing in the world. But if you still believe in him and say, that's totally all right, honey, and I know that you had the best intention, and I also make mistakes, his confidence is going to grow and grow and grow. And so, in general, first of all, you will can count on him always, because he's going to be deeply loyal. But also, when when the going gets hard, and now society, many people don't know this anymore, right? Because we live in a very safe society. But I always think, if there would be a war out there or anything would happen, I know that my husband would do everything, because he, like, all the times that I trusted in him, that feeds his confidence and his energy field of the king. And I know his inner warrior is going to come out, and he'll do everything to protect us. So it's such a mystical way of the feminine. It has really been lost in our society, but I encourage all women to think about this and learn how to do that, because it's like a secret, beautiful weapon for your relationship.
Well, that's a great point to close the show. Once again, I want to thank you very, very much for coming on the Boulder Zone today. If folks want more information about how you can help them, how do they reach you?
The best thing is to go to my website, veronica-amaya.com. You can find all the information there. You can find my meetup group, Conscious Relationship School, and YouTube and TikTok. And yes, I also have a blog where I share a lot. So yeah, it would be awesome. I would be very happy to connect with you.
And where do they go to get the book? It's on your website as well, your ebook?
Yes, you just go to the website and you can download it for free. And it's a juicy guide of how we can create more polarity within our relationships. So become powerful masculine man and a radiant feminine woman.
The book's called The Secret Guide to Satisfying Relationships. Get it. It doesn't cost you a dime, and it will pay dividends to you. Veronica, I would love to have you back for a live show sometime. So perhaps we can field some questions from the chat groups. Would you be interested in doing that?
Oh, that would be my absolute honor.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. That's Veronika Amaya, relationship coach for men and women. You are the real deal. Thank you very much for coming on again. I have all of Veronica's contact information in the description below. Read her book and give her a call. And I thank you for tuning in. For appointments and guest appearances, you can reach me at boulderzone.com, boulderzone.com, or call me up at 830-206-8282. And if you're driving, at the gym, or at the office, don't forget to check out the audio version of my shows on Apple Podcasts. The keyword is The Boulder Zone. The Boulder Zone. I'm out. Until next time.
You know what to do? Get bolder.